What's going on in the South China Sea?
Well, it's been a bit going on in the South China Sea for a while, but we haven't heard about it for a while because, of course, we've been thinking about other world events. We've been thinking about Ukraine. We've been thinking about what's been going on in Israel and Gaza. But last week, as we know, Anthony Albanese went off to the US to meet with President Joe Biden, where a lot of their talks centred on China, of course, because Anthony Albanese is going there on Saturday to visit Xi Jinping and the other compadres from the CCP. And there was discussion around the fact that things have been heating up in the South China Sea while everyone has been looking elsewhere. One of the biggest examples of this in the last couple of weeks has been with the Philippines. Now, the Philippines in 1999 deliberately ran ashore a boat called the BRP Sierra Madre on the Second Thomas Shoal. Now, the Second Thomas Shoal sits in the South China Sea about 200 kilometres offshore from the Philippines. It sits about 1,400 kilometres away from Hong Kong. So it's not hard to see who might have more rights to this piece of land. But of course, China asserts that it has total control of the South China Sea and is now actively trying to stop the Philippines getting access to this boat. On the 4th of October, there were a couple of Philippine boats went out to deliver some supplies to the Sierra Madre, and they were intercepted by 4 Chinese Coast Guard boats that tried to stop them gaining access. Now, 2 smaller boats managed to get through. They snuck their way through, and China scurried off back to shore. But last week, while Anthony Albanese was over in the US, this time there was a collision between Chinese boats and Philippine boats that were trying to get out to the Sierra Madre. Now, this has been going on for a while, this fight over the Second Thomas Shoal. It goes back to 2016 when the Philippines went off to the Court of Disputes on this matter, and under the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea, it was deemed that the Philippines have the right to this territory. China has denied that for a long time, and now they're getting really bolshy about it. China has said, this is from a statement from them, the so-called South China Sea Arbitration Award is illegal, null and void. The arbitration initiated by the Philippines directly concerns the issues of territorial sovereignty and maritime delimitation. Territorial issues are not subject to the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea. Well, A, they're totally wrong in that, but of course Australia in September came up with a security agreement with the Philippines, and Anthony Albanese has said that if China gets seriously aggressive about this and starts harming Filipino boats, then we will get militarily involved. Now, we know that for a long time China has been piecemeal trying to take over the South China Sea by, building islands that don't exist, dumping shed loads of dirt and sand, just building territory in the South China Sea. And the South China Sea has some of the most important trade routes in the world. So while everyone else has been focusing their attention elsewhere, they've gone, well, here's our golden opportunity to go in and actually start muscling in on this territory. To this point, we have not seen them actually get involved, causing collisions with other nations' boats to actively stop them gaining access to their own territories. Now we've reached that point, you've got to ask the question, how much more is China going to do?
Indeed, and we've yet to see any kind of retaliation, obviously, because firstly, the Philippines are vastly basically not weaponised at all in comparison to China. But obviously has very powerful friends. The US has also said, hey, if you keep pushing this button, we too will honour our agreement with the Philippines. And what I couldn't believe was this quote from the Foreign Ministry of the CCP, Wang Wenbin, called Philippine resistance, because they're standing very firm, called Philippine resistance to Chinese incursions, quote, a farce that entertains itself, end quote. I mean, these guys are literally just, like in the face of it. We know what you did. We have footage of these incursions, of them basically ramming other people's boats. We know what you did, and yet they'll call it a farce that entertains itself, that you would try and resist our incursions.
So the Filipinos aren't completely silly. What they've started doing is they've started inviting news crews on their boats as they go out to resupply this station out on the shoal. And so when the Chinese try to blockade them, they've got news crews, including drones, to get footage. And so this is a new tactic against China, because so much of what China does in these places is unseen, and it's a bit of a grey area. But the Philippines have decided, well, if you do this, we'll show everyone what's happening.
Yeah.
But the other thing with this is you've got China, you've got Russia, and you've got Iran. And the three of them are clearly talking about what's going to happen in what order, and China will come out the big winners here.
And we're sending Albanese off on the weekend to go and try and lift tariffs and things. Will he talk to Xi Jinping about what he's doing to our allies? I wonder.
I don't think so.